Hello, hello. This is Sean Ashcraft doing a random live stream. I'm live, definitely live from Indiana Public Radio, Master Control 2, and I'm going to spend about the next half an hour testing some stuff, because why not? Why not live stream some test stuff? Let me switch to, what do I got here? Desktop. And this is the Master Control 2 internet computer, or just the PC that you can log into and everything. So let's start with testing this, making sure this works. I already know that a lot of it works because I'm streaming from it, so audio seems to be working fine as far as I can tell. In fact, I can listen to the live stream right now, so this, as part of a testing process, something that's a very handy concept to understand and use is the idea of a loopback. And so this is a loopback right here. I will loop back my own live stream to the live stream, and hopefully it won't cause any feedback. That will be too bad, but because it's on a big enough delay, this live stream, it's not going to be too crazy, I don't think. But let's give this a listen. But first, let me check and make sure I've got my audio output set. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be kind of testing during this process is also the audio system that's in here. And we have an Axia Livewire system. So the audio output right now is sent to the Livewire system. So that means if I unmute my live stream here, and if I feed it on the board, let me go ahead and get it up. It's up on the board. I'm feeding the audio back into the computer here for the live stream. That's how you're hearing my voice right now. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute this and see what it sounds like live on the stream. Sure, I've got my audio output set. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be kind of testing during this process is also the audio system that's in here. And we have an Axia Livewire system. So the audio output right now is sent to the Livewire system. So that means, all right, well, that seems to sound pretty good. It's pretty happy with that. I'll leave this on mute in the background. It is saying that I'm having a lower than recommended bit rate. I don't really mind. Stream at a bit rate of 68 kilobits per second instead of whatever the heck I'm using here. So while I'm here, and I can see the automated Google Chrome captioning, I'm just kind of messing around with that, but I'm going to go ahead and close that. So since I am using OBS, and that's kind of the software of choice here for my stream, we can check out the settings. I do intentionally have like a low stream setting. I can't remember the details because I set this up a while ago. But something I guess is good to know, that I believe when you log in with your Ball State information to this IPR computer, or most of the IPR computers that are in the studios, it should save your settings for most of your stuff with your login. That way, if you want to use OBS to stream, once it gets all configured and everything, I believe it should save it for yours and only yours. So I don't believe anybody else can, for example, just hit this start streaming button unless they're actually logged in with my my Ball State desktop here. So just a fun fact of saving these settings, but because I've got a few settings, as you saw, if you were watching the live stream at the beginning, I can fade the black. I can have this view here with the desktop. I can have just the webcam and the little text thing, which is kind of fun. Something I haven't figured out. So I just recently learned how to apply a filter to crop this image, because originally it was like a widescreen image, and I was like, you really only need to see my profile, and maybe I'll leave a little room for the very classy 90s, sorry about the clip there, but the very classy decoration for IPR branding. in the background. But yeah, I can't figure out how to get this filter to just apply to one scene. It seems to apply to all the scenes. So I'm not a, I can figure video stuff out, but I don't really try that hard with video. But in terms of audio, stuff seems to be coming in okay. I've got the input from the board, which is sort of like the output that we looked at just a second ago. Just as long as this microphone is configured to be the live wire input, I can route stuff, and I can also output the desktop audio. Again, that's that idea of a loopback. Computer output is going right back into the computer input. And sometimes that can be a problem if you are, for example, if I fed this to the output. I wonder if I can do that. Advanced audio properties. Yeah, why don't we try this? Check. That feedback is because of that loopback. And if you feedback and loopback are very closely related concepts. A loopback is sort of a really handy testing idea where you just take the output and you put it back into the input, and you just make sure that if you can see input when you have output, that means your output is probably working okay. That also means your input's probably working pretty fine, especially if if you get like an exact copy through the loopback. I just realized you can't see what I'm looking at here. So let me switch that back over. I'm in OBS, and if I'll show you how I got here. If you set your mic to your mic input in settings, I think I can go in here and do that. Yeah, mic input. Usually you can see all of your audio devices here, and you just select, your live wire input. But then once you have that set up, saved in a scene, this isn't really an OBS tutorial, but I'm just kind of, testing all this studio stuff, because why not? Let's see. Then you can go to advanced audio, and that brings up this little mixer guy. And one thing you got to watch out, if you have an external audio device to do all of your audio stuff, and you're not using like a computer app to do all of your audio mixing, be careful that you don't monitor while you are looping back, because then that will create a situation where you'll have that feedback. So that's an example of how loopback is really handy for testing, but it's also kind of dangerous in terms of bringing that in as feedback to the system. So, and I'm not gonna. Sometimes feedback is like a super helpful thing, but that's for another another time to discuss stuff like that. So cool. Well, it looks like OBS is working. It looks like we can stream from here. I've got the bit rate a little lower than recommended, so we were kind of looking at that. I think that is quite simply the stream settings that I have set up. So I believe you can go to video, and I have to stop streaming to change any of the settings, but I'm sure there's some sort of, here we go. This is what I'm talking about. So I do have a small bit rate. I don't know. Oh, there's no like recommended settings or anything like that, but can I just turn it up while I'm streaming? I have no idea. Is it going up? I mean, it looks like it's going up, but I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. I guess I could hit apply, but I'm not really gonna goof with the stream right now. But yeah, so there are pretty interesting streaming and encoder settings, all that fun stuff. You can have separate settings for recording, and anyway, like I said, it's not an OBS tutorial, but yeah, for testing purposes, sure, having a lower bit rate is fine. I could turn it up more if we were trying to do some big project. That would be another, if I was like, hey, we need a super high quality stream, that could be a whole separate test event. But for today, we're just making sure that basic stuff works. So that is that. I know it looks like we have Pro Tools. It's just kind of goofing around with the free version of Pro Tools. Really what we use day to day, and I don't know why I don't have a shortcut down here, but this is Adobe Audition. So this might glitch the audio just a little bit while it boots up, but hopefully it stays pretty stable during the process. But thanks to Ball State's licensing, we generally can get Adobe Cloud products working pretty well. And we pretty much just expect Adobe Audition to work here. I'll also make sure that Audacity is working, because that's kind of if you're having issues with Adobe Audition and you just need to record, Audacity is really good for that. So let me just start with a new multi-track session, because that tests a lot of stuff in the process. So I'm just gonna put this on, yeah, just a little. I don't just put it on the desktop, because I'm just gonna throw it away once I'm done with it. Test. I'll say this is the April test. I should probably test this stuff monthly or something around there. Okay, so when Adobe Audition starts up, some stuff that just in any audio software you want to orient yourself with is the audio hardware, you know, what you expect, and can I save and load files? That's basically the big things. So I go to preferences, and this is in somewhere in here, edit the preferences. And you can pick in Adobe Audition, you can pick any of these and it just loads the preferences menu. So let's jump to audio hardware and just make sure that this is set. I believe this is actually an unfortunate detail when it comes to the individual desktop logins for Windows. I think this has to be set for everyone's user the first time they use it. But that's a pretty typical thing, because often a computer will have a couple different audio inputs. So like this one has the built-in audio, so I could plug directly into the line input or the headphone output with the computer, or I can use the board. And so selecting Axia there, maybe making sure you have ASIO. That tends to be the good device class. And then, yeah, setting this to a big buffer size, like 2000, is a good idea. And just a quick way to test, make sure it's working. We'll make sure we've got our first input. And yeah, I'll just make sure I got audio. A really fast way to test is just to input monitor. Fast. Test. So if I get that feedback, that means the loopback is working as intended. But maybe a little cleaner way where I can really hear what's going on is if I record. So I'll just record this to disk real fast and make sure that it sounds okay, and that my level is pretty good. So this is unprocessed audio, so it's not going to have, or it is going to have a lot of big peaks, and it's going to have a lot of small parts when I talk soft. And we just want to make sure this sounds good. So let me listen back to this. So I'll just record this to disk real fast and make sure that it sounds okay, and that my level is pretty good. So this is unprocessed audio, so it's not going to have, or it is going to have a lot of big peaks, and it's going to have a lot of small parts when I talk soft. And we just want to make sure this sounds good. So let me listen back to this. And then another layer of testing is saving what you've just recorded. So let me save is there, and then what you want to do is go ahead and actually just find the audio you just recorded. Make sure it's there. Make sure that your operating system is working, and you can just open it and whatever, but something that's actually kind of nice to do, just close everything out, and then make sure your app can, like even Adobe Audition, just make sure that it can open that file back up. So here it is in the waveform view. So I'll just record this to disk real fast and make sure that it sounds okay, and that my level is pretty good. So this looks good. Yeah, a lot of things here. You know, I can see the quiet parts. I can see the loud parts are okay. They're not distorting or anything like that. the file's opening fine, it's playing back at the correct speed and all that good stuff. So if you do have issues with all that stuff, 99% of the issues are fixed by going to audio hardware. Well, assuming that your audio stuff is working. So that's a whole different universe. But if it's like, wow, my voice sounds fine in the headphones and the system while I have stuff plugged in, it just sounds weird on the computer, going to here and adjusting these settings generally is the fix for just about everything. So I know I mentioned it a minute ago, but especially in Windows, using the ASIO device class, and we just pretty much need to use Windows in the studios for various reasons. Make sure you're using the Axia stuff, have a great big buffer size, like 2000. And then sample rate, 48K is the only option for Axia. And we kind of, there's like a fancy way that you can change that, but I don't really feel like it. I'm like, how about we just do everything in 48K? And you know what? No one is going to notice or complain about the sample rate being, I don't know what you would want, else you would want it to be, but there's different sample rates out there, and 48K is a pretty solid standard. Like a lot of production stuff is done at 48K, a lot of production stuff. So I don't really need to beat a dead horse by going on and on about that, sample rates and stuff, but that can be one area where, you know, for whatever reason, and even if your project that you're working with is not 48K, what's important is that the computer to audio stuff, like its hardware or software or whatever is processing the audio, is basically at the same sample rate that the audio stuff is. So since Axia stuff is pretty much always at 48K, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to change that, we'll just set everything to 48K. Now, granted, I just said we'll set everything to 48K. It should work fine if you go and you create a new session. And here I'll just try it out, because why not? See, there's so many sample rate options when you create a session. It really shouldn't matter as long as you're above 44.1. That's sort of like the minimum. For some reason, radio people sometimes record at 32K, and it's because somebody way back in the day was like, well, radio's really only this much bandwidth, so you really just you know, most people are recording at these higher, like 48K, maybe at most 96K. Nothing really works at 192K unless you have like a really good system. But yeah, and there's not even really much advantage to that. Anyway, long story short, let me do 44.1. I'll even go down to 16-bit. So this is like CD quality, traditionally. The one thing when you're creating a new multi-track session is to watch out for what your mix bus is, because that, I think, is permanent. So most radio stuff is done in stereo. If you're working, I don't know, I can't really tell you why Adobe Audition doesn't have more surround sound options. It seems a little like, because it's used, I don't know. I'm not even going to go there. But if you do want to do surround sound, it just does 5.1. I don't know if we're missing something, but I meant to create a new session just to test to make sure that 44.1K is working. So why don't we get really wacky and do a 32-bit file with 44.1 just to make sure it works okay. So yeah. Since I'm on a mic, I'm just going to do a mono input, test 1, 2. I can see the signal. And now we're going to be testing a different sample type for the session and all the audio that we're recording, just to make sure it still works. And it already says detected drop samples down there. I didn't notice that before, but that probably will happen the first time you initiate a recording where you've changed sample rates and stuff like that. So as long as it's sounding okay after that point, then you don't have much to worry about. But this should be enough for me to listen back and just make sure the stuff is sounding good. Oops. There we go. And now we're going to be testing a different sample type for the session and all the audio that we're recording, just to make sure. Okay, I think at that you can, and maybe I can jump to the end here for me to listen back and just make sure the stuff is sounding. And it looks like it cut off at the end there. I don't know if I cut it off a little early or just there was a delay. Sometimes the recording buffer, you want to kind of make sure you really have recorded everything and then press stop, because sometimes, especially, I think it's when you get different sample types and you have a big delay between stuff. There can be kind of a delay between, you pressing the keyboard and how it lines up with the recorded audio. So just make sure you got all the audio in there before you stop recording. Anyway, as we could hear back there, sounds perfectly fine to have a different session and a different sample rate, and that's because Adobe Audition automatically resamples on the fly. It's a little more process. I think it's a little bit more process intensive. I don't really know the details about it off the top of my head, but just wanted to show that that's why I don't make it a big deal. Like, yeah, it's good if everything's at 48K, because that's what all of our boards work at. But it's not a big deal if you do record at a different sample rate, as long as it sounds good. That's kind of the big thing. And if it doesn't sound good, if you're not sure if it's sounding bad or something, I think you will pretty clearly hear what's called slipping, and they're just like real subtle dropouts. Like it would be even more obvious than whatever this noise is here. That probably will happen. That's probably just my lip, making. That probably will. But yeah, that's the kind of characteristic sound. Like, I'll listen to this here. A recording, that's like mouth noise. That's not a sample rate dropout. But yeah, just wanted to kind of test that. Lots of testing stuff. So Adobe Audition seems to be working okay. And the audio boards and automatic resampling and all that fun stuff. Let's test out Audacity. Let's make sure it's still working. Now, I think normally when I would do this a little bit more often, I would just kind of come in real fast to the studios, just make sure stuff is working, skip all the updates for now, because our IT is kind of moving towards, you don't really want to have, you want to have these managed. That would be fun. Not totally there yet, but in the meantime, we will just make sure this stuff works. So in Audacity, we'll make sure our playback device is set to Livewire 1, recording device, Livewire 1, recording channels. I only need a mono channel. And then I don't even really remember where you set other settings. I guess it's audio settings, yeah. Yeah, look. Oh, even has what I just said. You don't need to do this, but you can. Let me just switch this to what I usually do. And so sometimes you do not get the option of using ASIO. MME is kind of like the built-in Windows. Like, it usually works, but sometimes it doesn't work that great. So I think Wasapi is kind of the standard for pretty professional. it's pretty professional stuff in Windows. And okay, let me check this out. Hit OK. Press record, and we are currently recording into Audacity. And we're recording at 48K, 24-bit PCM. That just means it's a WAV file. And since I'm coming in on just one channel, it just has the left channel there, and it looks like that level is correct. It's when I'm feeding elsewhere, so that seems to work okay. I'm just going to go ahead and stop and listen back. Press record, and we are currently recording into Audacity, and we're recording at 48K, 24-bit PCM. That just means it's a WAV file. Sounds fine. Sounds great. That's Audacity. Oh, I guess something I can do is test to make sure I can save. Let's save project. I know. Just put it on the desktop. I usually just put a bunch of crap on the desktop and then grab it all and delete it. So this is going to be called Audacity. Test. There we go. Save. Oh, right. And then so Audacity is a little weird. It's not weird, but it kind of saves all the audio in the session file in its like own special format because it's special. I don't know. And really what I want to do to make sure that the audio is like real solid is let's go ahead and export audio. And I guess I'll just put it here. I'll do the same as what I saved it as. So wave. What's all these different settings here? I don't know. Oh, these are different, like, yeah. Let's not mess with that. We'll just do 24-bit. Save it. This little metadata guy. Well, we're not going to worry about that. And it's so fast that it didn't even have to tell me that it was loading anything. Cast to device. Let's open with Adobe Audition. It's a good, again, a good way to test, make sure stuff is working as intended. Here it is. Press record, and let's, yeah, we are currently recording into Audacity, and we're recording at 48K, 24-bit PCM. That just means it's a WAV file. Cool. Yep, it is exactly the same audio, just in kind of a different interface. So, sweet. And now I got this peak file that I don't want. That's fine. Delete. And yeah, I'm going to delete these two. Why not? Cool. By the way, this is another thing that I'll just kind of check in with once in a while. It is the Livewire settings, especially checking out the statistics and making sure that there's not like a ridiculous number of errors. The occasional error dropout here and there, no big deal. Hardly even notice them half the time. But if they're just constantly happening and you can start to hear it, then that's kind of an issue. So I think that's pretty much going to do it for this live stream. We're pretty much out of time. Got to get ready for the next thing, 9 o'clock. Kind of pushing it kind of late. Don't have a whole lot of, what is that called? I don't know, transit time between class to the next thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm mixing up because we're in a university. Indiana Public Radio is part of Ball State Public Media, so going to be using class language from time to time, as if I'm teaching a class, but I'm not actually teaching a class because whatever. Yeah, and I got to get some other things done. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Let me switch the camera view back here. Oh, that's not the right one. There we go. Still getting used to the hotkeys on OBS and switching stuff around, doing video stuff, video stuff. So yeah, thanks again for joining this. I think this gets automatically saved to a live stream archive because why not? So yeah, I will do this once in a while, not too often, but maybe Monday mornings. I'm not sure. I'm not promising anything. I'm just kind of, hey, testing stuff by doing it, live streaming it. Why not? So yeah, that's all I got. I'm gonna go ahead and fade black and turn off the stream. So thanks again for, I don't really even expect anyone to be watching this, so it's just kind of, now I'm just like, I'm